Hi atop Ice District, it is the Rink Report. Tom Gazzola with Arpon Basu from the Athletic. Montreal covering the Habs. Obviously, Oilers Canadiens Tuesday night. An Edmonton team coming off an exciting loss Saturday against the Colorado Avalanche. I know this is the longest trip of the year for the Habs. It's another tough season, Arpon, but give us a summary of what's happened this year with the Montreal Canadiens. We'll get to the coaching stuff right away, too.
Yeah, sure. Well, you talk about an exciting loss. I mean, the Canadian season is basically defined by exciting losses. It's kind of been their mantra in a way that, they've not had results over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but they've really played some quality teams and played them tough. They had 2-1 loss to Boston most recently, but, they've had Carolina, Nashville, Tampa, Florida. They've just really gone. This is really a difficult part of their schedule. And after the Edmonton game, they're going to Vancouver, Seattle, and then Colorado. And so it's really a big test for them. Obviously, with Martin St.Louis not around, it only adds to it. But, when you're in the stage of a build that the Canadiens are in, you can say exciting loss or competitive loss or whatever. They can take things from these losses, and they've really shown some growth in their game. The talent is missing, and I think we're going to see that against the Oilers. But, the structure and some of the things that they're trying to build that they hope will last beyond this season, those things are starting to come into place.
A lot of encouraging signs, I'm going to assume, at times this year from some of the younger guys on the team. Obviously, some high-end talent. We know Caden Gooley here from his time as an Oil King. Local guy, Slavkovsky being the first overall pick a couple of seasons ago. Cole Caulfield, super exciting. Are we starting to see the fruits of that labor and all of that starting to rise with these guys? And are you starting to see signs that this is indeed going somewhere positive?
Well, there's a lot of not similarities, but there's a process here that obviously took forever in Edmonton, despite the presence of a Connor McDavid, a Leon Draisaitl, RNH, what have you. It's not enough to just bring in talent and put them together. Like actually building a team and getting over that hump. Right. I don't think I need to tell your viewers how how difficult that is. Yeah. So the Canadiens have to try and navigate that in a certain way. And so you see, you mentioned Gooley, Slavkovsky, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield. Right. Like that's the core of the team moving forward. David Reinbacher, their number one pick last season, 5th overall, just got assigned to their AHL team. Big right shot defenseman. So integrating all these, they have a ton of prospects, they have a ton of picks. But it's not that simple. No. Again, as Edmonton knows, as Buffalo knows, as Ottawa's seeing, it's really, there's another step there that the Canadiens really need to nail. And that's the tricky part. Like, no one in the league really knows how to do that. Like, there's not a clear path. A lot of Canadiens fans are like, just lose, and get number one picks. And you tell me, does that work all the time?
No, it doesn't. It didn't. Trust me.
Yeah, exactly. So they're trying to navigate something that's not going to be that. Yep. And they're trying to come out of the build starting next season, frankly. I really think they expect to be closer to a playoff spot, maybe not make the playoffs, but have some meaningful games played at this time of year. Even Buffalo, you see, like they're actually making a push to get in, and that's kind of what they want, the position they want to be in. Mm-hmm. But you can see a core. Like, it is there. Now, is it good enough? It depends. I think with the standard of talent they have as their core, they're going to have a much more talented supporting cast than you would, say, here in Toronto, where you have obviously the high-end number one overall pick, a couple of other guys, and then you have to fill in around the edges at league minimum salaries or lower salaries and sort of make the most of those. I don't think the Canadiens are going to be that kind of team. They're going to probably be a deeper team with more, like a higher floor of talent than maybe some of these top-heavy teams are.
Think of Seattle immediately when you say something like that.
That's it, exactly, yes. So like a Matty Beniers, is he going to be a superstar player? No, but he's a really good piece in Seattle to build around. But you need to surround that guy with talent. So the Canadiens are going to be like that. And what Suzuki's shown, honestly, he's one of the top goal scorers in the league since the All-Star break. It's kind of an undertold story, but I think he's 4th in the NHL in goals since the All-Star break. And so Caulfield's really rounding out his game. I had a long conversation with him about that today. Slavkovsky's found himself. Like, he's basically, this is the player they drafted, and so now he can build from here. He's only 19, but it's not that superstar level of talent, so they're going to need to go about it a different way, and I think they're happy about that, because I don't know, Toronto and Edmonton haven't won anything yet, despite having the top talent in the league. So maybe there's another way of going about it for Montreal.
The three-headed goalie monster is no longer. What relief comes with that, getting Jake Allen out of here? I don't know what his future was with the organization anyway, but now Sam Montembeault, Caden Primo are here, 2 young-ish guys.
Young for goalies.
For goalies, yeah, good point. But does that help at all? Does that at least make the picture clearer, and how has that helped these guys?
Well, it's definitely helped Caden Primo. I mean, Sam Montembeault kind of took the reins of the net when he signed his extension. That was the moment when Jake Allen kind of knew that the writing was on the wall. It was a difficult trade to pull off. The goalie market dried up completely. Like, this was a team, I think, that had a lot of interest in Jake Allen early in the season. They decided to ride it out. It kind of fixes itself over the course. And I know I think the Canadians were actually in talks of maybe taking Jack Campbell off their hands at some point. There were some conversations to that effect. But you lose Edmonton as a team that needs goaltending. Carolina sort of righted itself. Even Toronto earlier in the season, you were wondering. So now all of a sudden you don't have that many teams. I think there's basically LA, Jersey, a couple of others who really needed a goalie. And the fact that they were able to find one, even though they had to eat half of Allen's salary, was a pretty big accomplishment, frankly. I mean, they clear the path here for Caden Primo to get some games. It's going to be Sam Montembeault against the Oilers, but Primo played a pretty decent game in Calgary, even though he gave up a bunch of goals at the end. The team didn't play well in front of him, but he is maybe a goalie for the future. Like, that's the thing with goalies, you never know. But
Right.
But the Canadians have two really interesting goalie prospects. One's at Boston College, Jacob Fowler, and there's a Russian kid in the MHL who's really ripping up the junior league in Russia. They were both drafted in the last draft. So they just basically want to find a bridge, and Montembeault is that guy. I mean, he's got 3 more years on his contract after this one.
All right, something that is also temporary, we talk about a smaller bridge, is the situation Marty St. Louis stepping away from the team, Trevor Letowski stepping into St. Louis' role. What do we know about this situation? How is this team going to go about handling it? Just what is the light that you can shed on that right now?
Not a whole lot. I mean, other than David Savard kind of slipping up a bit in the first intermission interview in Calgary, mentioning that they want to win for Marty's son, we don't know anything. All we know is it's got to be pretty serious for Marty to leave the team.
Yep.
And so I think everyone in the organization, and frankly everyone in general, is just hoping for the best for his family. But otherwise, this is going to be the situation for an indefinite period of time. I mean, there's no real urgency to what the Canadians are doing here. So, I mean, obviously it makes it easier to let Marty handle whatever's going on with his family, and we all hope for the best for him. But for now, Letowski's a guy that works hand in hand with Marty in many ways. He's kind of the number 2, the first mate of the coaching staff. So it's definitely a different communication style, but they share a lot of the same beliefs hockey-wise. I don't think Trevor, and he mentioned today, he's not going to come in and start making wholesale changes and doing everything. But it is, it's a sticky situation. I mean, the Canadians have not made David Savard available to talk ever since he had that slip-up in intermission, understandably so. But, this is not the type of story I really like to dig on. And so that's basically where it's at. We'll see. Practice today looked like a Canadians practice. They did a couple of very long and a couple of drills we hadn't seen in a while. But Letowski mentioned today he's in regular contact with Marty St. Louis, so it's not as if he's completely out of the picture, but obviously he has bigger priorities to deal with right now.
All right, when we watch the Oilers and the Habs in the arena behind me, what are we expecting, or what should we expect to see from the Montreal Canadiens?
Well, I think, as I mentioned, they've played some tough opposition, pretty tough. I think you're going to see an interesting matchup kind of game, like Nick Suzuki's line with Cole Caulfield and Juraj Slafkovsky have been facing the top lines. Obviously, they don't control that here, and so I'm going to be curious to see what the Oilers do if they're going to if they're just going to send McDavid out against them. But he's been doing really well against some tough opposition. I mean, I mentioned that trip earlier. It was like Barkov, and then it was Kucherov, and then it was like O'Reilly in Nashville and Aho in Carolina. He's really come into his own as a two-way forward, and so let's see if that works against the most dangerous player in the world, But the other one, you mentioned the local guy like Caden Gooley and Mike Madsen are probably going to get a lot of that as well. And Gooley's really taken a step this year. Sherwood Park native, obviously grew up there, and so he's very excited to be home. He's turning into what looks like a pretty high-end shutdown defenseman. The offensive numbers are not there, but you'll watch his mobility and his physicality and just his defensive awareness for a guy who's 22, playing 23, 24 minutes a night. Pretty impressive against, again, some top opposition. So we'll see how McDavid does against him.
Gooley's old teammates from the Oil Kings taking in the practice today. Very nice to see. Very nice to see you back in town. I know you love this place. You spent a lot of time here during the bubble. Arpon, thanks for the time.
All right, my pleasure, man.
That is the EST Rink Report. Oilers and Habs Tuesday night.